Hey guys, Sean, Leslie Over Dummies. Huben hybrid stock assembly. I promised I would go through the assembly with you guys, so here it is. I just laid it out kind of loosely how it came packaged. So your Huben stock comes in this nice little box. Inside this box, you have some tank seals. My carbon fiber tank, this is a 0.22 liter, which is almost a 13 CI, 4,500 PSI rating. Important to note, this is the regulator I purchased. This is kind of a Ninja knockoff. It is an Aliexpress Ninja knockoff. It is 360 degree rotationable, and it is 4,500 PSI rated. Now, why is that important? Well, this stock is rated for 4,500 PSI. So you can run a 3,000 PSI regulator and, one of these bottles, but you have to be aware that then you can only fill it to 3,000. So you have to make sure all your pressure ratings match. And if one of them is out, that lowest value is what you need to stick to. Something that has been brought up in the groups and is particular about this stock that I am using is there is no regulation in it. That's why we have this external regulator. Huben does sell a buttstock that has a regulator built into it. Do not buy that one. There are no burst discs on that. So if the regulator is to malfunction, you can send a full 3,000 or 4,500 PSI into your marker, causing catastrophic failure, more than likely going to injure yourself or somebody else. So it's important that when we're dealing with air pressure that we adhere to all the safety. We obviously bend the rules with safety, but there are some things you just don't mess around with, and high pressure air is one of them. So with that being said, you also need to choose an on-off. So I brought two out here. This is a Home Defense 24 on-off. It's similar to like a quarter turn type on-off. And I also have this GOG on-off, these were my old trusty ones. I used to use these all the time. So you have to decide what you're going to use to function as your on-off. Alternatively, I don't have the other HD24 one here, but I do have a Vulcan Ultra here. You can use a twisty one. But as you've seen in my earlier videos, I found the twisty one isn't really conducive to, it's not, it just doesn't make for a quick action. And, that's kind of what we're trying to build here, is something that can be ready, at the snap of a finger. So I've decided to go with one of these twisty ones. Also, you need a spacer adapter, and we'll go through that. You may need multiples of these depending on how big a tank you choose, how big your hands are, even the pistol grip or the marker, let alone that you're installing this on, because this setup, once it's assembled, can pretty much fit any rear ASA'd air-powered device, really. I mean, I was searching around on the internet and I found a guy that was using this in his SIG 177 and was just using it with a remote line in the rear like this. So the options are endless. So this adapter, I needed one. You can purchase multiples and you can stack these. That'll be completely up to your build and how you want to set it up. So first things first, we're going to assemble this stock. Offshore stuff is M18 thread. So this thread here is M18 and this female thread is M18. Standard regulators that we find on you know, in North America are 5/8 thread, which is what this particular one is. You can buy 18mm regulators. In this case, I chose not to, not for any particular reason, more if the 5/8 are common. They're easy to get locally here. So if I have a failure, it's easy just to swap one in rather than order another one from overseas and wait, you know, 2-3 weeks for it. So first things first, we're gonna put our bottle on. Some of you ask, how are you sealing these things? Well, these are all sealed like any other high pressure air bottles and adapters. There is a sealing O-ring that fits right in here. And literally you tighten these together and you're done. Many manufacturers, so included in those boxes of the you know, your tank and your buttstock here, you actually get, I just put them all in one bag. You get a whole bunch of these tank seals. There are 2 different sizes, and really it's about which one fits the best. So I've taken the 2 sizes out here. They're both gonna work. It's just a matter of, and you'll see when we're assembling this. So many manufacturers, when you buy a paintball tank, this stuff is Loctited. It's not completely necessary. Once this is tightened down and there is even a little bit of air pressure in this, these cannot be removed. They're not gonna unthread on you magically. Like, I mean, that's why they make this thread so long, is so stuff like this can happen. They're not gonna blow off. Worst case scenario, if you intentionally attempted to untighten this, the seal's gonna let go and the air is gonna disperse and it's gonna make a whole lot of racket, but it probably won't kill you. So I'm gonna choose the O-ring that fits best in this bottle. You can see this one, it fits, but and this one's kind of a narrower profile. In fact, this is the O-ring that came with the Huben. You can see it fits in there a little bit looser, but the profile is thicker so that when I tighten this down, it's gonna kind of squeeze it a little more. So you don't need to lube it or anything like that. Just roll it on. Get her down to the bottom there. Just like that. Make sure your tank, in this case, is M18. So this is an offshore carbon tank, so it's M18. And you thread it on. And you'll see it start to compress that O-ring. And what you want to do is do it tight. Or as tight as you can by hand. You don't need tools. You can see the discoloration of my finger and the grunting in my voice. It's tight. In this case, the next thing I'm going to do is install the adapter. So this is M18 on this end. It has an O-ring here, and this is 5/8. They have these adapters M18 to M18 and 5/8 to 5/8. So depending on how you're orienting all of this, you know, if you're putting your regulator here, you know, you may need different adapters. I'm going to link this particular one, and it'll have the other adapter in the kind of in the listing, but it'll be up to you to choose again how you're putting this together. So what I found in the early assembly is this O-ring that's supplied on this particular adapter is too small and doesn't make the seal. So in this case, I'm taking the larger O-ring that was in the kind of group that I got here, and it's a little thinner profile. I'm actually just gonna put it right on the outside of this O-ring. You kind of see it really does fit just right outside this other O-ring. And I'm gonna thread it in. Again, no tools required. Just make sure it gets centered in, and it will. It has a recess to go into. You can kind of see it dropped in there. Like that. Give it a good and tight. All right. Next is your regulator. Because this is adapted to 5/8, this will thread right in. This particular one, I haven't tested yet. So this O-ring, it's gonna be untested at this point, but well, you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna put it in like that. I was gonna put another O-ring in there like I just did here. I didn't do it on my previous setup, so I don't think I'm gonna need it here. And you can see, I'm just tightening it in. Really the way to tell if you need that additional O-ring, the larger one, is when you start tightening this down, it doesn't really compress that much. And you know what, that one, there's a little bit of compression there. Kind of a bummer. This rag ended up in a different spot than my last one. So you can see, it's clocked down. So let me try and put that larger O-ring on there just to see. May not make any difference. The previous reg I was using was just a HK Army, like a super cheap regulator, and it just perfectly lined up the gauges. I'm gonna take one of these larger ones again. Probably won't make any difference, but I have to try. You can see I just kind of put it on the outside of that one. And there is a groove that it lines up in here, so normally double stacking O-rings is frowned upon, but because there's 2 slots there, it's okay. Just kind of making sure it goes in there. Hey, look at that. It actually worked out better. So you can see it offered some more compression, and I'm satisfied that that is tight enough. I could probably turn it a little bit more, but again, if it's snugged up and you got, like, you know, it's hard to exactly explain, but you just get this feeling when you're compressing that O-ring. And if you have it set like this, once you pressurize this bottle, this rag is not going to turn whatsoever. Okay, well, that is it for that part of, holy smokes, look at those O-rings. Assembling your buttstock. It's really that simple. The next step is your on-off. So, I want to have mine oriented a particular direction. So without anything, no intervention, I'm just going to thread these in there. That one's actually not that bad. I want it on the inside here, not on the outside. This Home Defense 24 offers, you know, obviously, you know, if it's dark or, you know, you're fumbling, this knob is very easy to grab a hold of. In this case, I'm not a huge fan of that. I kind of like the more streamlined look. So I'm just going to thread my gog in here. And you can see gog is on the wrong side and kind of on this downward side. I want it on the inside here. So there are ways to fix that. You can actually take a spare one of these O-rings here, drop it down inside, and tighten this in, and you might find that it orients your on-off knob where you want it. You may get lucky if I bought 10 of these M17s, this is the factory regulator on here, you know, 5 of 5 might end up like this, 5 of 5 might end up like this, and same goes for the Home Defense 24 regulator, which I am going to eventually put on this marker. So it's just a matter of trying what you have and then making adjustments. In this case, I did try and drop an O-ring down there. It still ended up in that location. So there are a number of other ways you can do it. I actually found M17 bolt bumper. Stretch this guy over. And there's kind of a knot straight down in here. Just got to get it in there. Alternately, I mean, you could just use an O-ring. I did actually try that first, and the O-ring still put me in the wrong position. So pardon me while I'm fumbling here. So there you can see. That's an M17 bolt bumper. Thread that on. Boom. Look where it ended up. Sure, I like it. My OCD says it should be like that, but I can be like that. It pretty much matches where the Home Defense 24 was. So if I wasn't so picky, you know, I'd probably just run that. And then, of course, this regulator is adjustable. So I loosen these 3 Allen heads here. 1, 2, 3, and I can rotate this to fit how I like. So what I'm going to do first is just thread it on and see where it stops, the way it is. It stopped like that. So clearly that is not going to work. So let me just go grab my Allen key. Allen keys, and I'm assuming this is going to be metric because it is an offshore rig. So just find the proper Allen key like that. I'm going to loosen these. You can see it already started to spin. There is another one in here. So my rag is currently tight. This threaded piece is tightened in fully. So this may be difficult for me to do on camera, but now all you have to do is center your stock where you want it and retighten these little screws here. There's one. There's 2. And luckily, they're all in place where I can easily reach them. See there, the last one is right on the top. And you can see I'm using the very tip of the Allen wrench. I'm not putting a ton of leverage on these, but you can put them, you know, relatively tight. And there you go. All centered up. Before we do anything else, I'm going to detach this, pressurize it, output test it, and then we'll fire it. All right, so we got a 3,000 PSI fill on us. I want to test the output pressure of this regulator since it is brand new. And you realize, well, you can't thread your gauge on. So I'm just gonna stack a bunch of adapters here. I'm gonna use a Home Defense 24 on off for some extra height. And that might just be enough, actually. Look at that, I think it is. Ooh, it'll be close. I'll tell you what, we'll put on another adapter. have these random spacers out here. There we go. So in my experience, in my 4,500 PSI output or bottle pressure experience is limited. I found regulators. So this regulator is rated to 4,500. It wouldn't give me an 800 PSI output unless I was like filled like 4,000 and above. So I don't know if it's gonna give me an accurate reading here, but because I've only have a 3,000 fill. And it says just a tick above 700. So let's go finish this fill. I'm gonna just fill it to 4,000. And the reason I only do 4,000 is, well, I have heard stories of the Yonghangs, and that's a particular compressor I have. Not liking getting right to 4,500 on some of these larger tanks, even though this isn't that large. I'm just erring on the side of caution. 4,000 PSI is plenty. So let's fill it up. Okay, so I've adjusted my auto stop to 4,000, and when you have 4,500 PSI bottles, it's important to remember to dial this back if you are filling also aluminum bottles. That is very important. Easily forgotten. Pumps running. We're going for 4. And there we go. If it'll focus, focus, focus. Oh, come on. There we go, that's better. 4,000. And it's almost at the red. This buttstock is rated 300 bar, which is where the yellow and the red touch, which is a 300. So still within its operating range. Let's see what it tests at. So we're at 700 PSI. Air it up. That's better. And see, now we're at like 750. It's creeping a little. If chances, oh, there we go. She's going up. Chances are I fill this to 4,500. It's gonna say 800 PSI. I'm not too concerned about that because I do plan on probably running this pressure or even less. So I will go toss this into the marker and we'll give it the real test fire. But that is all. So this is self-contained at this point. If you want to install this on another marker, it's just a matter of adding spacers. You can use these additionally. There are also these particular ones. Okay, so important phone call just interrupted that. But yeah, so these are tank spacers. Speedballers use these to space their tank out, you know, based on their needs. You can stack these things infinitely. I don't know, I'd go too many. But you could run probably at least one more, I think, depending on the marker and how secure the rear ASA is too. You don't want a lot of leverage hanging off the back, but trial and error, guys. I'm only running it on my M17 at this point. I will be trying it on some some of my other rear mounted markers. But let's go fire this thing. So you got your marker, you got your ASA set, located how you like. Thread your new buttstock in. And I should have turned the ASA off. All right. There we go. My bottle is set. How I like it. My ASA is off now. Don't forget to do that. But that's why it was clear. Mags here. Safety first, right? Okay, so there you go. Now, this is what I mean. I got small, skinny hands. I'm a tall guy. This is perfect for me like this. And from, let's see, we're gonna measure from this point right here to the end of the buttstock. 10 inches. Huh, that is short. Now, if you had fat hands, you can add a spacer. You could change your pistol grip. This particular one, this is the Magpul Mo K2, I think. So it has this big, large beaver tail. If I didn't have that beaver tail there, I'd actually probably have more room. So I think the factory pistol grip would give you more room than this setup, but I'm happy with this. It's perfect in my shooting position. What else can I say before we load this guy up? Well, I guess if you have any questions, send them my way. All the links will be in the video description in the bottom. So have a look down there. We're not gonna do a power test. This is a V1 bypass. This was my CO2 based M17 and I have yet to change it over because I don't know if I'm gonna do that anymore. I think I'm gonna keep it like this and I'm gonna mess with this front end. So there are obviously some other minor things you could change. I mean, you have this fill nipple on the bottom here. You can fill this bottle through that nipple, or, you know, when this tank is empty and depleted, you could just remove this and block it. You know, really, there are so many little different details that you could change here, and I am going to, but let's just shoot this thing. Gog. Grimberg Jewel. 8 gram V2s. Hope that helps you guys. See you on the next one. All right, I wasn't quite done yet. I thought I would throw the Home Defense 24 on-off on there. And it's not that bad. It's not that bad. So I don't know. It is a touch longer than the GOG. So again, every little bit of gap you puts distance between you and your bottle here. So choose wisely.